You know that feeling, right? Where you walk into a doctor's office and you feel like you have to tell your whole life story again? We tend to think about our health in these little isolated moments. A checkup here, a sick visit there. But what if we're looking at it all wrong? Today, we're going to explore a completely different way of seeing things, viewing your health not as a series of separate events, but as one single continuous story.
All right, so here's how we'll break it down. First, we'll talk about the core problem, why healthcare feels so broken up. Then, we'll dive into this idea of a continuous health story, looking at how the signals from our everyday lives fit in. We'll also see how this connects our entire care team, what happens when safety has to come first, and ultimately, what this big shift towards continuous health really means for all of us.
So where does the real problem begin? We always hear that healthcare is fragmented, because we see all these different doctors and specialists. But the issue might actually be deeper and simpler than that.
This really gets to the heart of it. It's such a powerful idea. Think about it like you're trying to watch a movie, but you only get to see a few random scenes out of order. You'd miss the entire plot, right? Well, that's kind of what's happening with our health. We're only showing our doctors these little disconnected snapshots, and they're left trying to guess what happened in between.
I mean, just think about how it usually works. We're out there living our lives. We're sleeping, eating, working, dealing with stress, and all of that is continuously shaping our health. But the healthcare system? It usually doesn't show up until something's already broken. We're almost always playing catch-up, reacting to problems instead of getting ahead of them.
Okay, so if the problem is a story that's been chopped into a million pieces, then the solution has to be about putting it back together. And that leads us to a new way of thinking.
This is the big question. What if the story of how you're sleeping, what you're eating, how much you're moving, what if all those little subtle clues could be woven together into one single, coherent picture of your health?
And this is where an idea called the signal system comes into play. Now, this isn't some fancy new gadget or an app. It's more of a new framework, a new approach. It's about connecting all those little dots, from daily life to the doctor's office to even an emergency, so that they tell one complete story.
And that story, it doesn't just start when you walk into a clinic. Nope. It starts right here, in the middle of our everyday lives. And that's the real foundation for a smarter way to think about health.
Every little choice we make, everything in our environment, it's all contributing to where our health is headed. These aren't just random bits of information. They are literally the opening chapters of our personal health story.
And these signals are all around us. Things like how well you're sleeping, what you're eating, if you're getting out for a walk, even data from your watch. By itself, one bad night of sleep is just that, one bad night. But what if it's combined with a change in your diet and you're feeling a little off? Suddenly, those separate signals start to form a pattern, and that pattern could be an early warning.
So what happens when you take all this rich context from your daily life and bring it into the doctor's office? Well, the entire conversation can change for the better.
This slide just lays it out so perfectly. On the left, that's the old way. We've all lived it, that frustrating feeling of retelling your history over and over. But on the right, that's the new way, a conversation that begins with, okay, I see what's been going on. Your doctor can actually see the context, the patterns, the whole story. And it's not just about you and one doctor. Imagine if your family doctor, your specialist, and your pharmacist were all looking at the same continuous health story. No more wires getting crossed, no more information falling through the cracks. Everyone who's part of your care is finally on the same page. This brings us to a really important point. What happens when all those little daily signals start hinting that something more serious might be happening? How does a system like this handle risk? And the key word here is proactive. Instead of waiting for a full-blown crisis to prove that there's a problem, the whole idea is to recognize those early warning signs, to raise a flag when the patterns just don't look right. It's really just a logical, safety-first process. Step 1, it recognizes when things seem unstable, when different signals just aren't adding up. Step 2, it triggers the right action. Maybe it's a call from a nurse or a simple recommendation to get checked out. And step 3, it makes sure there are no critical delays by giving clear, safe guidance on what to do next. It's all about acting early. So when you put all of this together, the daily signals, the connected care team, the proactive safety net, what you get is a really profound shift in how we approach our health. This is the whole point. We're trying to move away from a system that just fixes things after they break. The goal is to shift to an approach that's continuous, that's connected, and that's always focused on keeping you safe and well in the first place. So I'll just leave you with this to think about.
If all the little fragments of your health journey were finally pieced together into one continuous story, what do you think that story would reveal? What new things could you learn about yourself? And what could it mean for your future?